to the Sugar+Spikes podcast, a show for everyone trying to navigate business and life without losing their minds. I'm Dez, a coach and consultant who is entirely overeducated, habitually overdressed, and obnoxiously honest.
And I'm Tammy. I'm a psychologist. Was I supposed to say more?
You know what? Enough said. We talk about mindset, mental health, and making it all work in the big, bad business world.
One quick note. We may be mental health professionals, but we're not your mental health professionals.
So, enjoy the show. All right. And we are back.
And go!
Go. This is actually kind of cool because this is the closest I think this podcast will get for a minute. Actually, we need to talk about that after this. About doing scratch that, starting over.
That's the kind of place we're at right now.
This is gonna be a good one.
So good.
No, but this one is kind of like a in vivo podcast. Because normally, okay, so it's no secret we batch content because our lives are crazy, and anyone who does content out there understands.
We hope.
Yeah. You gotta batch because life happens.
Right.
And this one is actually going to be released, I think, within 24, if not 24, then 48 hours of us recording, which hasn't happened since like season 1, month 1 or something.
So it's a really long time ago.
Since before we learned to batch.
Right? And we were like, oh, that's a thing?
Yeah.
We can do that? Oh, we don't have to like do... Okay. We'll do that.
All the training between us, and it took... I don't even know what it took for us to realize it. Anyways, okay. So, Sugar+Spikes in vivo. We have a couple topics to kind of talk about.
Yeah.
Depending on how this goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like maybe just kicking it off with us discussing what topic that we were going to talk about. So, okay, the frame up.
Okay, you do it.
Because it's confusing.
Because all I'm thinking about right now is my outfit and how proud I am of putting it together.
It's cute.
Right?
Yeah. Your shoes are really cute.
You and Peyton have helped me so much.
Yeah. Peyton, we love you. Come back on the show.
We love you.
Actually, we do need to have her to talk about the skills closet.
Yes.
Okay.
I used that with a client. I'm not lying to you.
How was it?
It was great.
It's so good.
I'm like, it's like an outfit, right? You wouldn't wear the same outfit every day. So
Exactly.
sometimes you change your outfits. Coping skills are like that. Like you wouldn't use the same one all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need different ones. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was good.
Yep.
I was very proud of myself.
Genius. Okay, so the frame up. We were going to talk about why this episode is in vivo with the stuff that I just like saying that, okay?
I can tell. You can tell we've been studying that I've been forcing you to study with me.
I was going to say, it makes me,
for the last
it reminds me of my research days, and like grad school days, and I never thought I'd get to the point where like I looked fondly back on those days, but apparently that's happened.
It's a thing.
Okay, why this episode is coming up so fast? Because Tammy and I have a couple really big things coming up, not this week, not the week of the release, but next week. This week and next week, depending on.
Okay.
And initially I proposed, let's talk about managing the stress of like huge events, which is something we'll likely get into.
Okay.
We'll see. Depending on how this
We don't
rabbit hole
know.
goes. There are people that plan out podcasts. Like they have like not scripts but talking points.
I can't.
No.
I can't stick to that.
No.
There are people that do that for therapy too, though. Like they write on the board, like we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. And I've tried to do that, and it just does not fit with my me. So some people are like super structured like that, and I applaud them because I can't do it.
That's really not us.
No.
Okay, so it was going to be that. But then we got into this whole other conversation around, is that too repetitive?
Yeah.
And that kind of kicked off this whole other topic around feeling like you're saying the same thing over and over again. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? Discuss.
Or maybe it's somewhere in the gray, since that's our jam.
We'll discuss. I'm lobbing it your way. Whoosh.
And right back at you. No, I'm just kidding. Well, so, I mean, I think about that and like, I think it can be useful to like, I mean, think about marketing, not lobbing it back to you or anything, but like, your message has to be consistent, right? If you're changing up your messaging all the time, people don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, therapy, I don't want to say it's saying the same thing over and over, but very often you have to frame things up in different ways and things come back around.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, I think about like when I was very early on in my training and I was like, oh, I didn't get to this. Like, we didn't talk about this today. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we didn't talk about it. But I realized that themes tend to come up over and over.
Yeah.
In therapy, and therapy kind of mirrors life, right?
Oh,
so they come up over and over again in life too. And so if you didn't get to it, that's okay because it's coming back around. It's kind of inevitable. So, but then I think you can also reach this level where when is repetitive too repetitive? Because the theme can come back around and you can always add something new.
Yeah.
But when is the thing just the thing and you never add on, you never talk about it in a different way, you never expand on it, right? So I think that's where, like, going back to marketing again, that's where messages get stagnant and like you have to change it up. I think it's hard to know when you get to that place, right?
Yeah.
Like when you cross that line.
Yeah, I think there are a couple different ways to look at it because especially for if I think about our situation, if I think about like marketing, if I think about a podcast, if I think about those types of things or like coaches who have a focus or consultants who have like a very clear focus.
Or like even therapists who like I work with clients who have eating disorders.
I was just going to say that.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's what you do. That's your jam. There's specific ways to do that.
Yeah. Then saying the same thing, it's going to attract your client. Like people aren't going to get sick of it because for one, everyone has so many messages coming at them that it takes a lot to even have someone pay attention to you.
Yeah.
Let alone really know your message, really know what it is you're saying, what your brand is saying. It takes a lot to go from like awareness to interest to like engagement.
Yeah.
Kind of if we think about it like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, from the consumer side, from the audience point of view, how confusing is it if 1 week, hey, even 1 month, because I know a lot of sales cycles, like a lot of sales cycles are roughly 3 to 9 months. Like if you think like 5-figure coaching packages, things like that, or corporate stuff, like if you're in the corporate world, it's going to take some time for signing. So how confusing is it if 1 month your message is this, like, we are a podcast. It's not the same because podcasts are free. But anyways, Sugar+Spikes is a business that does styling, we'll say.
Okay.
And then the next month we say, we don't do styling, we do design.
Right.
Which is kind of the same, but it's not.
Different. Yeah.
You know, but if we just have this like one message of we help like business leaders navigate their stuff, people are going to know what to expect. It's going to draw in the audience that we want. People are going to find it at the time that they need.
Yeah.
And it also comes back to, as a business owner, as a content maker, being okay with your audience shifting. Like, people aren't going to be engaged with you forever.
Right.
You know, it's the life cycle of a customer, it's the life cycle of a client,
Yeah.
audience, etc. So I think that even if you start to, no, I'm not going to say even if, I'm going to say if you're feeling like you're saying the same thing over and over again, that's a sign you found your message.
Yeah.
And then, and then I would say the growth area would be, you know, the message changes as you experience stuff, as you like personally or like business wise grow and learn additional things. Like, that's why therapists have CEUs. That's why there are like conferences to learn and implement additional pieces into what it is you're already doing.
Well, is it really that the message changes, or is it that you just approach it in different ways?
Right.
But like your message, your overall like thing stays the same.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. I mean,
like, we're never going to suddenly change and not be about mental health or not be about business, like an entrepreneurship. Like, those things aren't going to change.
yeah.
The way we talk about them might change.
It has changed.
It has changed. You're
Yeah.
right. For sure. And because we aren't static people, right?
Exactly.
People aren't static. Like, we change and grow. It's happening all the time. So, like, I'm not even the person I was a year ago.
Right.
You aren't either. Nobody is.
Yeah.
And so, like, you have to be able to move forward in a way that feels authentic. And so, the way you talk about things will change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it is important, like, to acknowledge like those facts around capturing attention, because there is a lot of noise.
Yeah, it's true.
And I'm just thinking, about like applications in like corporate life and like a nice like actionable tip. But I think that sometimes, especially for like corporate content marketers or more like business folks,
Yeah.
that's where it's really on you to be adding in like additional experiences and finding additional points of view, and challenging yourself to think about it in a different way.
Yeah, I agree. Because I think, so something I was thinking about as you were talking, kind of going back to the whole topic of this podcast or today, whatever, is maybe it starts to feel stale when there isn't that expansion,
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
When it's just the same thing, like over and over and over again, and you aren't looking for new experiences. You aren't looking for new ways to expand your thinking or ways to look at it in another perspective. And so maybe that's when it really starts to get like, why am I listening to this over and over and over?
Exactly.
You know, whereas you're like, okay, it's still us, still talking about the same things, but like, we want to bring more awareness, you know, and we increase in awareness all the time too. So I think about going to CEUs and going to conferences and listening to things and doing courses and all the kind of continuing ed that I do. And I love it because even if I only take one little thing away, it's one little thing and it's a big deal because I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that before.
Well, I mean, that's true influence, right?
Right.
Like, being able to shift a perspective, that's the goal. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't speak for you, but like that, for me, that's the goal of the podcast, is like for someone to listen to it and have that like one moment, that like 10-second of, oh, that's new.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, that's what therapy is, right? Like, it's a 30 to 45 to an hour, however long you're there.
I'm psychodynamic. It's 90 minutes at least every other day.
No shade. But so however long it is, right? But it may just be the one thing. And the funny thing is that what therapists think it is and what clients think it is are never the same.
No.
Like, they've done research, and like people are very therapists and clients are very far apart in like what people take from therapy. But it could just be like one little thing you say that like changes your life.
Yeah.
And it may not even be something I realized I said.
And you've had those moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, where clients are like, and then it comes back to this one thing you said 10 months ago, and you're like, oh, wait, I said what?
I know. Like, I don't even remember saying that.
Yeah.
Like, because it wasn't the point I was making, but it was meaningful to them.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's kind of where the art and the magic kind of happens. And it happens in therapy, and it happens with marketing, and it happens in continuing education, and it happens, right?
Yeah.
And I hope it happens here too.
Yeah.
It may not be like, you may not have some great big thing about marketing, but maybe something we said was like, oh yeah. And that would be my hope.
Well, and even like, you never know what can be life-changing or how much something affects another's life. Like, I was talking with the gal who does my taxes, who I just like love, and I have no idea what I would do without her. I do know what I would do because I've done it the last few years, and it's not good things.
Terrible things.
But she and I were talking, and she was like, it's not like taxes change people's life. I'm like, no. Us working together this year has quite literally changed my mental health status.
Yeah.
Like, every time I've gotten nervous about taxes and stuff, I'm like, oh, she's got my back. Like, I'm just going to talk to her, and it's fine.
She's your tax therapist.
Yes. And like, it's epic. And she's just like, I mean, taxes aren't life-changing. Like, it can be empowering and everything. I'm like, no. And she's actually going to come on the podcast because we went into like this whole side conversation after going through stuff. And like, she just gets the larger picture too, which is so cool. She's going to come on. It's going to be fabulous.
Oh, it'll be awesome.
But the other thing is like, in your business, no matter what it is, if you do it day in and day out, it's going to feel like everyone else knows it.
Yeah.
Like, so many things are going to feel like common sense. Why am I saying this again? Don't these people know it? Like, even in the industry that I'm in, I'm like, oh, all this is like so related, and this is why things are important, blah, blah, blah. But then I talk to other people, and it's just like a whole different world.
Yeah.
You know? In fact, like, you and I have had conversations where we want to do a psych book club so I can like keep those cobwebs at bay because I like that world and I don't want to be disconnected.
Yeah.
You know? So it's really easy to write off expertise when you live it every day.
It's so funny because you and I have talked about this in different forms many times on and off the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, I remember like having a conversation with you where you were like, I have 2 masters and like, who cares? And I'm like,
what does it even matter?
And I'm like, not that many people have that. Like, I don't think you have perspective because you've been going to school with doctorate students.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, everyone has a master's.
Yeah.
But, like, it's not super common. And I was talking to another psychologist friend of mine, and she said something similar. She was like, you know, we're around doctors so much. We're around doctoral students and doctors, like, all the time. So we forget that everybody's not a doctor. And I know that sounds really shitty and, like, elitist and crappy, but I don't mean it that way. I just mean, like, you get used to knowing what you know, and you get used to other people knowing the same things.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're like, oh, but actually most people don't know those things.
Yeah.
And they could benefit and learn, and just like, and I can learn from other people too, because I don't know those things that they know and are magical at, right? So like, it's just really interesting when you get comfortable in your own world with your own niche, and then you're like, oh, but doesn't everybody know? And they don't.
Yeah.
Right?
So
did that come off as really elitist and shitty?
No, I mean,
Okay.
I think academia does that.
I know. But that wasn't my intention.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, like, hairstylists hang out with hairstylists, and like, shade people with bad haircuts. I don't know that. I'm not a hairstylist, but like you can make the same kind of assumptions of, well, doesn't everyone know how to dye hair or, things like
Or
that.
style, or right? Like I
Exactly.
think about that, right? Like
Mhm.
doesn't everybody know how to make an outfit look good? Nope.
Isn't that just common sense? Like, it's not
Nope.
that hard. It is.
I beg to differ. It's
Yeah.
hard. Right?
Yeah.
It's hard for me.
So, like,
So, yeah.
yeah, it's the world that we live in, and I think that's why focusing on, maybe not focusing, but like being aware of a diverse like interest, like
Mhm.
giving yourself that, I don't want to say permission, but giving yourself, allowing yourself that focus to be interested in like other stuff
Mhm.
is kind of important, because when you s- when you're looking at stuff and learning about stuff that you don't quite know, it reminds you what you really know,
Yeah.
and is also that like confidence boost, like if that makes sense. Like, everyone can be elitist in their own right, like,
Sure.
I know this really well. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, I get it, right? So like it makes you more confident in what you know,
Yeah,
but also what I love is this idea of like share what you know because other people don't know it. You
exactly.
know, like
Uh-huh.
I obviously we wouldn't be doing this podcast if I was like if both of us were like hoarding knowledge for
Oh yeah.
ourselves, right? Like we want to share, we want to help, we
Yeah.
want to help people grow. But I think it goes beyond that, right?
Mhm.
Like I think of Peyton coming on here and I think of her Fashion Fridays and how she like shares her knowledge to
Mhm.
help people be more stylish, which is
Yeah.
important. We have a podcast on it. It's important.
Oh yeah.
And so like
Well, and I would add, be more stylish and confident.
yeah, right? Because it's really important.
Yeah.
And for me,
Yeah.
it was life-changing to watch her do those things and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that really helped me. I
Yeah.
didn't think about that. I didn't know that. It didn't occur to me because
Yeah.
that's not the world I live in."
Yeah.
And now like I put together a pretty cool outfit today and I was
Mhm.
pretty proud of myself.
Yeah.
So, like to me,
Mhm.
other people being willing to share was life-changing for me.
Yeah.
So I love that idea,
Mhm.
right? And that idea of diverse points of view
Mhm.
so everyone can share and it's all unicorns and rainbows.
It's all glitter and milkshakes. um so yeah, I mean, I guess really to answer the beginning question is, it only becomes too repetitive when you stop growing.
Yeah.
And if your audience changes, that's fine.
Oh, it's totally fine.
Like, it's expected.
I think people take what they need
Mhm.
and they move on because they're
Exactly.
growing too,
Yeah.
right? So like even in therapy if clients never come back, they got what they needed,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
And I believe that.
Mhm.
And so I think that happens with podcasts. I think that happens in all kinds of ways
Yeah.
where like they take what they need, they grow, and they move on in their life,
Mhm.
which is great. If you think about it,
Yeah.
everybody's job is to put themselves out of business,
Except retail.
right? Except retail.
And grocery stores.
Because somebody said that to me the other day. They're like, it's so weird that like your job is to make it so people don't need you
Yeah.
anymore. And I'm like, yeah, it's to put myself out of business.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Have you seen that scene on Grey's Anatomy where Arizona is talking to the firefighter about like really weird feelings about that?
Mm-mm.
It's kind of dark, but Arizona, one of the doctors, for people
I
that don't,
know who. Oh,
for
I was
people
like,
that don't watch, is one of the doctors, and she's a pediatric surgeon.
yeah.
And she was talking to this firefighter, and she's like dressing wounds or whatever. And the firefighter was like, there's something really sick about it, but like my kid is sick and this fire was going off and it meant overtime, and there was a part of me that was just like, burn baby burn, and Arizona's like, I make my living off of sick babies,
Yeah.
and not to make it all dark all of a sudden.
You ruined the vibe, Des. Good going.
That is my job. Like, that is the one thing
I was
I'm
all
really
like puppies and light and love, and you were like sick babies and fire.
There's never been a truer representation of my personality. Oh my goodness. But we've all been there. You've been thankful for extra hours.
It's true. It's true.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because it makes the world go round.
Fair enough.
Woo, commerce.
Never hurt anyone.
Except everybody. We should probably end.
Okay, let's end.
We're getting a little punchy. So no one's going to find out why this episode is coming out so fast.
I guess not. I guess we're choosing to put a boundary around that. Are we?
Are we choosing to put a boundary, or are we choosing to put a teaser for next week?
Ooh. You ruined it. Time to go.
Screw you and your boundaries. So tune in next week. This also solves our problem of what are we talking about.
That's true.
So tune in next week and find out what has me and Tammy in such weird moods.
Yeah.
What has us on such high alert, and find out what happened, because right now we don't even know.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's coming.
things are either gonna crash and burn or be glorious.
I know, one of the two.
Yeah.
This is the one time there's no in between.
Exactly.
We found a time. This is it.
What is it? All things in moderation, including moderation.
Yeah.
Ross Blotcher, Ono Ross and Carrie.
Yes.
Go listen to that one, and we will talk to you guys later.
Bye, friends.